Hello, nerds for Yang. We have our weekly update on the Andrew Yang campaign and what's going on in the campaign in general. If this is your first time to the channel, I do a weekly upload on the US presidential campaign, mainly focusing on Andrew Yang. I try and give a lot of facts and data, much in keeping with the spirit of the Yang campaign. Just try to keep it real. So feel free to subscribe. I think it'll be right down there, and hit the bell, and you'll be the first to know when I post new videos, which is generally about once a week. We're currently at 426 subscribers, so that's really exciting, given that this is a fairly new channel. I'll keep uploading every week if it's useful and we keep seeing that subscriber count go up, so I know that putting these videos together is worth it. All right, so we're going to cover the polls, the latest polls. We're going to cover media mentions. We're going to cover the money race, how much each candidate has raised since they just recently reported. And then we're going to look, based on some viewer suggestions, at Google Trends. And with the media mentions, that was also a viewer suggestion, so thank you for that. And then we'll look at social media activity as well. And then if there's any time left, we'll do a policy deep dive. So let's get right to it. With regards to the polls. So last week, we mentioned that the Harvard-Harris poll that was conducted on March 26th was pretty exciting because it showed Yang coming up at 2%. And this week we have one new poll that was completed on March 31st. And this was conducted by Morning Consult. And it is not showing Yang at all. I'm a little bit, to be honest with you, I'm a little bit suspicious of that poll. Because if you look at the history of that Morning Consult poll, it's never, ever showed Yang at all, which is surprising because it does show other candidates who I think are far less popular. Terry McAuliffe, Steve Bullock, John Delaney, Jay Inslee, John Hickenlooper, Kirsten Gillibrand. Those guys are all being reported on in the Morning Consult poll, and yet there's no Yang. Like, he's not even showing a 0, whereas at least Terry McAuliffe is getting a 0, and Jay Inslee 0, Steve Bullock 0, Tulsi Gabbard 0, Terry McAuliffe 0. So I have a sneaking suspicion that it's possible either they're not listing Yang, or if people are saying Yang, maybe it's not being recorded, or this poll might be sort of steering towards the older audience, because I do know that a lot of Yang supporters are on the younger side. But in the spirit of keeping it real, that is where we are with the polls as far as last week's newest poll, the big goose egg. All right, hopefully that changes, and we'll get a new poll next week from another provider that has a different sample. Obviously, if we keep seeing zeros, that would not be good. Not to worry, though. There was another poll that was conducted on March 28th through 30th. This one was not a national poll. This one focused on Nevada Democratic caucus voters. And here you see a pretty exciting outcome where Yang came in at 3% in Nevada, higher than Klobuchar, Booker, Gabbard, Gillibrand, Castro, Hickenlooper, Inslee. And he was only 40% less than Buttigieg, who's kind of like the hot hand right now. And then you got Beto, Warren, and Harris all around 10%. So Yang coming in at 3, not too shabby. And obviously Biden and Bernie with 26 and 23 still the front runners. But, at least in Nevada, it definitely suggests that Yang's kind of, coming from behind and, starting to close in, at least on that second tier of Beto, Warren, Harris, and Buttigieg. And that's encouraging, which is another reason why I think the national polls from Morning Consult are a little suspicious. Now let's look at media mentions, and the rest of these things: media mentions, Money Race, Google Trends, Social Blade. That's sort of why I feel like something's weird about that Morning Consult poll. In fact, I actually tweeted to them saying, "Hey, what's going on?" I'll put a link to the tweet below if you want to favorite it or retweet it to lay some emphasis. Maybe we can get those Morning Consult guys to take a look at their methodology. Okay, so big time media mentions. This last week we saw a Newsweek and CNN article mentioning Yang. So that's fantastic. We know that Yang does really well on podcasts and YouTube, as well as Twitter. But what you want to see is like kind of getting that mainstream press, because otherwise it may be hard to break out. In terms of overall press coverage relative to other candidates, I'm using this new tool from a small company called Spectrum. So thanks to the guys at Spectrum for putting this together. Hopefully it's accurate. But if you look at it, you'll see that most of the media coverage, according to them, is really going to Joe Biden. I think probably not always for positive reasons. Joe kind of stepped in it again with his jokes about getting permission to hug people at an event he did recently, and then he had to apologize for it again. Little side note: I think this whole kind of excessive affection thing. Quiet! This whole excessive affection thing is maybe indicative of why Joe's kind of from a different generation. And he did a pretty good job with the Twitter apology, the video apology, saying, I get it, I get it. And then like the next day, he makes a big joke after he gets introduced on stage, hugging like the guy that introduced him, saying, oh, by the way, I got his permission to hug him. And then, a mostly male audience starts laughing. If I were a woman, I would be like, no, see, you don't get it. Because you say you get it, and then the next day you make a joke about it. Now, you could argue like, hey, it's just a innocent joke. But if you really kind of felt remorse and you were like, okay, I need to change how I do things, then you wouldn't. I don't think that would be a joke you'd make. And he made 2 jokes about that. And then he had some kids on stage. And he's like, oh, I got their permission. Okay, enough about Joe Biden. But if you look at the data here, you'll see that he's getting a ton of coverage. If you sort of ignore Biden, then the next big candidates getting a lot of mentions look like Bernie and our buddy Mayor Pete. He's getting a lot of action in general. So it's Biden, Sanders, Buttigieg, O'Rourke. I would say in terms of the top tier getting mentions, you really basically have a situation of Biden getting literally hundreds of mentions in the press, and then everyone else just getting like 50 or 60 or less each day. So you get Biden like a couple hundred, Bernie 60. Biden a couple hundred, Bernie 50. Biden a couple hundred, Buttigieg 50. Biden a couple hundred, Warren 40. And so since this is the Nerds for Yang channel, you'll notice that Yang is getting like one, none, 6, none, 1. So he's kind of bumping around in terms of 0 to 5-ish. in the total news coverage. But I do think getting on CNN and also like getting invited to a CNN town hall, his own town hall during prime time, which was not the case the last video we did, is a massive development. So post CNN town hall Nerds for Yang update will be huge, because hopefully we're going to report about how that was like a breakthrough moment. It certainly helped old Pete Buttigieg. We'll see what it does for Yang. Hey guys, I'm halfway through editing this week's video, and it's long, so I'm going to break it up. This is the first part, and then I'll do probably the second part and third part on subsequent days. So hope you enjoy this week's upload, and then there'll be a second part of this week's upload the day after, and then a third part the day after that. So if we get to, I think we're at like a little less than 500 subs. Let's see if we can get to 750 in this week, so that that can motivate me to make more of these videos. Because I tell you, I've been shooting now for 30 minutes, but the editing is gonna take me like several hours. So it is a labor, and I'm totally keen to do it as long as I know people are appreciating it and it's useful and it's having some impact. Thanks in advance for subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting, and look forward to hearing from you all. Peace.